Hello, I'm Jim Gardner for Action News. Work crews off the coast of California try to contain an oil spill that is threatening some of the state's best-known beaches. We'll have a live report from Huntington Beach. Now here are Mark Howard and Lisa Thomas-Laurie.
TV commentator Andy Rooney is suspended for alleged racial remarks. Temple Law student Mila Friedman appears in court in the sensational murder case.
Thousands of would-be movie stars show up at the Civic Center to take part in Rocky V, and the lunchtime crowd enjoys more of the Delaware Valley's warm winter. Dave Roberts will tell us how much longer before winter returns in the real one, and Scott Palmer has the end of the Sixers streak and a super slam dunker, all on the early edition of Action News. Next.
Deluxe, as in luxury. It's the coat sale at Coat Gallery. Coat Gallery. So many coats for you to see. You can't resist. Coat Gallery. Coat Gallery.
When your body says, Mentholatum says, yes, you can. Mentholatum Deep Heating works like a penetrating massage. A warm, relaxing massage to help you get going. Mentholatum Deep Heating says, yes, you can. And now, Deep Heating Sports Spray to help get you back in action fast.
Red Lobster.
Tonight, 30 shrimp, just $8.95.
Red Lobster for the seafood.
Scampi and oh, golden fried.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover.
Grilled and lemon pepper. 30 shrimp on one plate, just $8.95.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
And kids get shrimp, a complete meal, just $1.95.
Engaged couples fight meddling families tomorrow at 4.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Scott Palmer, Dave Roberts, Lisa Thomas-Laurie, and Mark Howard.
Good evening. In the news tonight, the State Department warns that Americans in Europe may be the targets of terrorism.
Progress is reported on arms control issues as Secretary of State Baker continues his talks in Moscow, and an unauthorized demonstration turns violent in South Africa.
But the big story on Action News tonight is an oil spill off the coast of California that is threatening some of the world's most scenic beaches. A tanker carrying 290,000 gallons of crude oil started leaking yesterday just off Huntington Beach. That's about 30 miles south of Los Angeles. And joining us live now from Huntington Beach with the latest on this story is Joe McMahon from our sister station KABC. Joe?
Lisa, I just might make one correction there. The ship, the American Trader, carries 25 million gallons of oil. An estimated 295,000 to 400,000 gallons of oil spilled out of that ship yesterday afternoon. We might tell you how it all happened. About 4:35, the ship pulled up to the pipeline there where they were going to offload some oil at a bunker. And apparently the ship ran over its own anchor and started spilling oil out through the hole. Now, the people here in Orange County have declared this in a disaster area, and that's the first step in trying to get funds from the federal government to clean up this mess. As the sun came up over Huntington Beach this morning, the huge oil slick was slowly moving north and west away from the tanker American Trader. Cleanup crews were helped by offshore winds that kept the oil from washing up on miles of Orange County beaches. At one point, the estimated 295,000 to 400,000 gallons of crude oil formed a black stain on the ocean surface 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. If the wind shift, it's believed some of the oil could hit land by tomorrow. While crews could handle beach cleanup, if the oil hits wetlands, such as the one adjacent to Bolsa Chica State Beach, serious environmental damage could be done.
It's going to be hitting up in an area where we have one of the largest estuary reserves in the United States. Right now, it looks like it's going to hit the beach, but if it does get into Anaheim Bay, where it can hit the estuaries, we could have a serious problem. And I have noticed that several booms have been placed in strategic areas in the bay itself.
So far, there's been little impact on wildlife. About a dozen birds were rescued last night and early this morning, their feathers soaked with oil. Volunteers cleaned the birds and later released them. We're told 7 birds died as a result of the oil spill. It's believed the tanker ran over its own anchor while tying up to offload its 25 million gallon cargo of oil, ripping a hole in the ship and pouring the crude out into the ocean. Now we're back live here at Huntington Beach. There is some bad news for the cleanup crews, and that is this. All night and early this morning, the winds were blowing from the east. That kept that slick out there. Well, about 2 hours ago, the wind shifted, and it's now blowing in from the west. And that's pushing that slick closer to the beaches, and it looks as though now there's an awfully good possibility that it will reach the beaches and possibly the estuary. I'm Joe McMahon reporting live in Huntington Beach. Back to you.
All right, we thank Joe, and I think he did clarify our numbers, saying some 4 million gallons was carried on that tanker, and it leaked, in fact, 290,000. All right.
Big spill. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Lisa. Okay, police in Camden County, New Jersey now, still sorting out the details of last night's shootout, which involved a local police officer. The latest from Action News New Jersey correspondent Kathy Gandolfo.
Neighbors living near the Lawn Manor rooming house in Pennsauken expressed surprise over last night's shootout that left 4 people wounded.
It was always a very nice place. It was very well run.
Merchantville Sergeant Eric Schmidt went to the rooming house last night to arrest 32-year-old David Wirtz for allegedly trying to attack 2 Merchantville special officers with a screwdriver earlier this week. Psychiatric counselor Michael Blunt went with Schmidt because Wirtz had a history of mental illness. When Schmidt and Blunt opened the door to Blunt's room, Wirtz allegedly fired a rifle at them. A bullet passed through Blunt's arm and hit Sergeant Schmidt, who was injured but protected by his bulletproof vest. Eventually, Wirtz was shot 6 times in the arms and legs. A Pennsauken officer was also wounded in the shootout. Wirtz lived in this rooming house for about 2 years. According to police, however, he acquired the .22 caliber rifle just about 2 days ago.
We did a backtracking of the weapon, and through his brother and his family, we located that the rifle was missing from the basement of the grandparents' home.
Some in Wirtz's neighborhood said they'd often seen him walking around in a very peculiar way.
Every time he stopped, he'd do a turnaround and just keep walking. He'd stop the next corner and turn around again.
Wirtz had gotten help from the Steininger Center in Cherry Hill and knew outreach coordinator Michael Blunt. It's why the police called Blunt for help.
Mr. Blunt is very visible to all the police department, and he's been visible, and we've always been very visible with the Pennsauken police.
Blunt and Sergeant Schmidt are in stable condition tonight. Wirtz is fair and has been charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. I'm Kathy Gandolfo, Channel 6 Action News, Pennsauken, New Jersey.
Philadelphia police are still puzzling over a dead body on a street in Nicetown. The victim was discovered at North 18th Street near Bristol around 8:30 this morning. Police say it appeared the victim's throat had been slashed. They also say he might have been killed elsewhere and dumped here. So far, they have no identity on the victim, no suspect in the case.
A preliminary hearing is still underway at this hour for 24-year-old Temple University law student Mila Friedman, charged in the shooting death of her former boyfriend. Friedman, who wore sunglasses as she came to court this morning, is accused of murdering 28-year-old Brian Edwards last November. Now, police are calling it a case of fatal attraction, a stormy relationship that ended in murder, they say, when Edwards broke off his relationship with Friedman to return to his wife in Texas. Edwards' wife also appeared for today's hearing. Friedman claims the shooting was self-defense, that she shot Edwards after he attacked her, she said, and forced her to perform a sexual act. However, witnesses testified today that they saw Friedman firebomb Edwards' car just 2 weeks before the fatal shooting. Remember the story involving Mayor Good and a Sheriff's Department employee allegedly interceding on behalf of a businessman friend to delay repossession of his property? Well, today it was a preliminary hearing in that case, and John Rollins has details.
Did someone illegally postpone a court-ordered repossession of machine tools from the Medley Tool Company in North Philadelphia, allowing the company owner to escape into the protection of bankruptcy? The district attorney says this man, Joseph Graves, the number 2 man in the sheriff's department, and Deputy Robert Armstrong conspired in delaying that repossession last year. Today, during a preliminary hearing, the man in the glasses, Lieutenant Charles Sell, testified Graves told him the day of the Medley seizure, the Medley job is not going off, and then told him to make himself scarce. Defense attorneys contend this is all a tempest in a teapot, suggesting there was a paperwork problem with the court order.
Certainly there was testimony that the writ as presented would have been defective.
There was also an inference that Graves and Armstrong were innocently following orders. Graves' boss, Sheriff John Green, was in the courtroom today for moral support, but didn't talk to reporters. It was disclosed last year that Mayor Good was a link in the chain of events that led to this case. According to an investigating grand jury, company owner Elijah Medley phoned Good for help. Good says he routinely referred the call to Green. Both Good and Green have been subpoenaed by the defense. Will they be called to explain their role?
The mayor's not an important witness to me.
The sheriff?
The sheriff may be.
Why?
We'll find out tomorrow.
The defense attorneys maintain the prosecution has yet to show that a crime was committed, let alone a crime committed by the defendants. Tomorrow morning, everyone should be back in the courtroom as the prosecution concludes presenting its evidence as to why Graves and Armstrong should stand trial. John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News, City Hall.
SEPTA, Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania officials today agreed to end the bickering and share responsibility for filling in those bone-shattering potholes that go around trolley tracks. Mayor Good joined SEPTA General Manager Louis Gambaccini and Pennsylvania Transportation Secretary
increasing our capital and operating.
Howard Jerusalem today. The agreement creates a fund among the three parties to end disputes over who had to repair the trackside potholes by paying an outside contractor to do the work.
The people in Washington are saying categorically that they're going to impose a federal law that says that unless there is a predictable funding stream by Pennsylvania, being the only state in the nation that does not have one, then it may not be any federal money coming along.
Good, as you heard, using the occasion to plead for a predictable state funding base for SEPTA. That pothole fund will total about $750,000 with equal shares coming from the state, city, and from SEPTA.
Of course, potholes are usually a sign of spring. They're coming a little early this year. We did not break any records today. However, we came close as the Delaware Valley experienced another warm winter day. Philadelphia reached a record high of 59 yesterday. Today, some of us were doing handstands over the beautiful weather. Many enjoyed the day by eating lunch outdoors or taking a stroll. Others simply enjoyed the fact that they can wear shorts in the month of February.
It's warm out. It's 60 degrees.
It's just great to go out and walk around at lunchtime, take a long lunch.
In the meantime, the signs of spring are busting out in a colorful way in one of the most beautiful locations in this area. Action News reporter Lauren Wilson has the story.
Outside, it feels like spring all right, but missing on this unseasonably warm day are green leaves and colorful flowers. Until, that is, you go inside the Longwood Gardens Conservatory. Here, pink tulips and white daffodils say welcome spring.
Takes a lot of hard work, a lot of planting, and a lot of planning a year in advance. Also, if it gets cold, it takes a lot of heat.
Yes, the Welcome Spring display means lots of work for the staff here. 45,000 spring bulbs are in bloom. There are more than 3,000 varieties of flowers and plants here, and every last one has to be pruned. It's a tedious task, but the breathtaking sight of it all makes the job worthwhile, especially for the little ones who just can't believe their eyes.
I like when the smells when the one with the bee in it. The bee? There's a bee in it, and there's the flowers.
The flowers, bees and all, were particularly inviting to couples who left their woes behind, and to those who came to Longwood today because the weather is so much like spring.
It's beautiful, and it smells as good as it looks. Just the most enlivening thing to do at this time of the year.
It reminds us all of the days we used to go to the flower show and you could see the flowers, and this is just marvelous.
It'll take Dave Roberts to tell us how long this spring-like weather will stick around in the Delaware Valley, but you can get a look at this springtime display until April 30th. I'm Lauren Wilson, Channel 6 Action News at Longwood Gardens.
What a lovely sight. And coming up, Dave Roberts with more on the warm winter. Right, Dave?
I'll tell you, pleasantly mild today, even warmer come tomorrow. How long is it going to last? We'll let you know. Mark, Lisa?
Also coming up, Dave, a Philadelphia executive makes history in Washington, and a Philadelphia man who won a medal in track and field tries his hand at another sport. All of that and more coming up when the early edition of Action News comes right back.
Your favorite storybook characters come to life on stage.
Into the woods you have to go to get your wish. Be careful though. Into the woods you never know what's lurking on the journey.
Where do you go to see the winner of 3 Tony Awards and a Grammy? The Showtime magazine calls a ravishing explosion of color, melody, magic, and laughter.
Into the woods.
Into the woods. Of course.
Into the woods and out of the woods. And happy ever after.
I want a 10-minute breakfast, so I'm bringing a clock to time it.
You don't need a clock. The waitress has a stopwatch.
If her watch is stopped, how will I know when 10 minutes are up?
Because if breakfast takes longer than 10 minutes, it's free.
I get a broken watch for free.
I'm talking about breakfast.
And you've rambled on long enough. It's time to go eat at Lenny's.
Denny's.
Now you can have your breakfast or lunch served in 10 minutes, or it's free. Only at Denny's.
You believe that a woman ended up in bed next to him nude and he didn't know how she got there?
Never argue with a woman. You'll never win.
If they've got 2 legs and walking, they will cheat.
We've been together almost 19 years now.
How? I'll never know.
Men don't get as jealous as women. No. Oh, am I going to get killed for that one?
Oh, boy! You heard it, America.
Turn to Oprah, weekdays at 4 on Channel 6.
The U.S. State Department is issuing a warning tonight of a possible terrorist attack against Americans in Europe. The threat coincides with this weekend's anniversary of the Iranian Revolution. The State Department says the U.S. is deeply concerned about the possibility of any terrorist action by the Hezbollah. That's the radical group with ties to Iran's fundamentalist government.
And the United States government is deeply concerned that terrorists may now be planning an operation against U.S. interests in Western Europe, which may be timed for on or about February 11th. At present, we do not have specific information about the nature of the terrorist operation or about its target.
The timing is that this weekend marks the 11th anniversary of the revolution which ousted the U.S.-backed Shah of Iran and installed the late Ayatollah Khomeini as head of the Iranian government.
A federal judge in Miami ruled today that Manuel Noriega can be tried in a U.S. criminal court in spite of his prisoner of war status. The judge brushed aside defense arguments that the deposed Panamanian dictator must be transferred to Panama or a third country until his status can be determined by an international tribunal under the Geneva Convention. Now, Noriega's lawyers say they plan to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to free him, and they plan to bring pressure on the White House by complaining to the Red Cross and the United Nations.
And now a story from Moscow, Lisa, and it is good news tonight on the arms control front, and that is that Secretary of State James Baker met today with Soviet Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze, and a report published in the Soviet news agency TASS said, quote, progress was achieved. Word is the two officials made progress discussing verification of missiles, strategic arms limitations, and conventional arms limitations. All this could lead to a Bush-Gorbachev summit to sign some agreements sometime this summer.
Government officials in South Africa say threats against the life of jailed black leader Nelson Mandela made by right-wing groups may force them to postpone his release. Now that news comes amid more violence outside Johannesburg today. Excuse me. At least 30 people were injured when police fired tear gas into a crowd of blacks protesting an appearance by a British cricket team. Now, demonstrators say the game violates the sport's boycott against South Africa. Another protest several thousand miles away in Port Elizabeth was more peaceful. 20,000 people, many of them children, lined the streets to protest inequality in black education. Meantime, Jesse Jackson toured the black township of Soweto in the second day of his 10-day tour of the country.
Now enjoy the fun and excitement of sunny Orlando, Florida. The year-round beauty of Lake Placid, Daytona or Virginia Beach, tennis at Hilton Head, or hiking in the Great Smokies. It's 4 days and 3 nights of vacation paradise free for 2 adults with a $1,500 purchase or more at Siemens Furniture. But you must act now. This amazing limited-time free vacation offer is almost over. So hurry to Siemens for beautiful furniture, big savings, and your free vacation. Offer ends February 12th.
Listen to the energy experts and things might look a little dim. Some say the whole northeastern United States could be in for power problems in just a couple of years. Well, some areas may be in for trouble, but right here, we have enough power for now. And there's a lot we can all do to make sure shortages don't hit us by starting to conserve. If we insulate better, use the off-peak hours. Just don't waste electricity. Things will look a lot brighter. The power's in your hands. Use it wisely.
It's 7:14 a.m. and the taste of one coffee is opening some eyes.
Hey, you guys, free coffee. This is great.
This is delicious. What is this?
Second ground roast.
No way, this isn't Sanka.
You know, this smells really good.